We can sit around in the alternative media and we can moan about the fact that listings in Google are constantly being manipulated through algorithms, or we can do something about it.
Hello, and tonight's headlines.
The Iconic Media Group is a genuine alternative.
I never fully switch off. It's almost like having the radio on in the background.
What is the reaction to that from within the industry?
Well, I hide a lot.
Hello, welcome to Real Education with Lana.
However, we want to grow this into being one of the biggest independent platforms, if not the biggest independent platform in the world.
I brought in Max Egan to talk about it. Mr. Egan, no need for introductions, but I've done it anyway. Say hello to Iconic.
And welcome to the very first episode of Amanda's Secret Chamber.
I felt it, I know what pain feels like. It's horrible to suffer mentally because everything's here. It's just in here.
This gives the strong impression that we know what we're talking about.
I want to leave this world having made the biggest difference I can.
A genuine alternative that will cast a light on subjects that the mainstream media, and to be fair, large swathes of the alternative media either can't or won't.
Here's the story from the last few days. President Trump signs defense bill creating Space Force, first new military branch since 1947. Flanked by two F-35 jet fighters and in front of a giant American flag. God, it's pathetic. President Trump signed the 2020 National Defense Authorization Act that officially created the Space Force, the sixth and first new military branch since 1947. Now, this National Defense Authorization Act is the annual Trojan horse. What they do is it's the text is massive, and what they do is they throw things into this National Defense Authorization Act every year, dictating spending. It's a big, massive spending bill, and many of these items they add into it have nothing to do with defense at all, but they put them in there, and because the text is so massive and the time that anyone's given to read it before having to vote on it is so absolutely tiny, they all get through because people either vote against all of it or for all of it. They haven't got time to read it. And this is an annual farce that goes on. And in this one, something they claim is related to defense, it's actually related to attack, is this Space Force, which has been coming for a very long time. Quote, "For the first time since Truman, we will create a brand new American military service," Trump said. "You will witness the birth of the Space Force. That's a big moment, and we're all here for it." You know, when is that area of the alternative media that so supports Trump and supported him and made a significant contribution to his election, when are they going to actually have the penny drop that he's just another frontman for the same force that controls the Democrats? You know, draining the swamp. When you look at what he's allowed to go through, which he could have stopped or delayed or caused a fuss about, the idea he's draining the swamp is ridiculous. Yeah, let's drain the swamp. Let's have a Space Force. Phenomenal amounts of money while people sleep in the streets. This Breitbart story, Trump supporting website that seems to think this is a good thing. Classic alternative media, Trump supporting self-delusion. At best, I'm being optimistic, it's self-delusion. The creation of the Space Force marked the achievement of one of the president's top national priorities. Space is the world's newest war-fighting domain. Oh, we haven't got enough already, you see. Trump added. American superiority in space is absolutely vital. Trump is like one of these guys. You know the kid in the playground who's saying, "My dad's bigger than your dad." That's the military to Trump. The new branch will reside inside the Air Force. The president thanked Vice President Mike Pence for his work in helping to establish the Space Force. He also announced the appointment of Air Force General John J. Raymond as Chief of Space Operations. He will now join the Joint Chiefs, Trump said. To mark the historic moment, President Trump signed the bill inside a giant aircraft hangar at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. That's down the road from the White House and the Pentagon, where jets were not scrambled on 9/11 in response to potential attacks on the Pentagon, but from well in excess of 100 miles away in Virginia, Langley, Virginia. And this is the Air Force Base where he comes and goes in his helicopter and his presidential jumbo. So he's there and he signs this to in front of an audience of several hundred young service members, Pentagon officials and other distinguished guests, and a stream of other people. And so what we're looking at now is taking war into space. And it doesn't take a genius to see where that could lead. As you would expect, China and Russia have condemned the move. China has condemned the inauguration of the newest branch of the US military, the Space Force, describing its creation as a threat to peace that endangers global stability, which of course it does, but I won't take lectures on peace and stability from China's leaders, thank you very much. But it was always going to go here. And it's a very sinister development. Now, another story over the last few days is that Saudi Arabia have sentenced 5 people to death for the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist and Saudi dissident who was once a great supporter of the Saudi royal family. So they've taken the small fry of the operation, if you like, and they're going to execute them. And of course, Saudi Arabia knows all about execution. It's doing it all the time. But while these small fry gophers are going to be executed, the Crown Prince who runs Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, has got away with it, not least because of support from Trump and America. So while these small people are going to be executed, he'll go on being invited to the White House, so long as he keeps spending enormous amounts of money with American arms companies, which Trump is giving fantastic financial support to with his military policies, while he drains the swamp. And it is a story that just captures the us and them reality of human life, whereby the small people get the consequences, and those who, in this case with Mohammed bin Salman, who ordered the horrific murder of Khashoggi, gets away with it. But then again, you've got Donald Trump, who unleashed missiles on Syria based on what people like me said at the time was a lie, of a chemical weapons attack by President Assad, and of course that's now been shown through whistleblowers to have been the case. So Trump is a fraud, but what he does is speak the language of those who he needs to win support from to get a second term, which at the moment is likely, given the extraordinary levels of ridiculousness that's coming out of the woke Democrats that have been completely taken over by the woke mentality, and that's, you know, it's something else worth mentioning. The way both sides of the Atlantic, in Britain and in America, we're seeing the same process of the woke, politically correct dictatorship of thought and speech that's taken over the Democratic Party and also took over the Labour Party. And the Labour Party has just taken a massive hit in the recent election. Why? Because the great majority of people don't support that crap. All the people that don't get to the microphones, while the woke people do, don't want it. And whenever they get the chance to reject it, they reject it. And what's happened with the Labour Party, wokers, because they have no ability for self-reflection or looking in the mirror, they're now blaming the fact that people didn't support them on the fact that Britain is more and more racist and all the rest of it. And the same is happening in America. It's just the same mentality, so you're going to get the same outcome. And the Democrats have not learned that they were responsible for putting Trump in, just as the Labour wokers haven't learned they were responsible for putting Boris Johnson in with a massive majority on December the 12th. It's just two masks on the same face, and so much of the alternative media in America has fallen for it. Now, here's another story related to the military, but also to 5G. And this is the thing about 5G. It's a weapon. It's a military weapon. And this is a story from the Activist Post website. The hidden military use of 5G technology. And the writer, Manilo Dinucci, said that at the London summit, the 29 member countries of NATO agreed to guarantee the security of our communications, including 5G. Why is this fifth generation of mobile data transmission so important for NATO? He asks. While the earlier technologies were perfected to create ever more advanced smartphones, 5G is designed not only to improve their performance, but mainly to link digital systems which need enormous quantities of data in order to work automatically. This is the smart grid. This is why 5G is being rolled out without any testing, because without it, the smart grid can't function. And of course, 5G is only the start. China's already talking about 6G, so is Trump. The most important 5G applications will not be intended for civilian use, but for the military domain, the writer says. The possibilities offered by this new technology are explained by the Defense Applications of 5G Network Technology, published by the Defense Science Board, a federal committee which provides scientific advice for the Pentagon. Quote, the emergence of 5G technology, now commercially available, offers the Department of Defense the opportunity to take advantage at minimal cost of the benefits of this system for its own operational requirements. In other words, the writer says, the 5G commercial network, built and activated by private companies, will be used by the US Armed Forces at a much lower expenditure than that necessary if the network were to be set up with an exclusively military goal. Military experts foresee that the 5G system will play an essential role for the use of hypersonic weapons, missiles, including those bearing nuclear warheads, which travel at a speed superior to Mach 5, 5 times the speed of sound. In order to guide them on variable trajectories, changing direction in a fraction of a second to avoid interceptor missiles, it is necessary to gather, elaborate and transmit enormous quantities of data in a very short time. The same thing is necessary to activate defenses in case of an attack with this type of weapon. Since there is not enough time to take such decisions, the only possibility is to rely on 5G automatic AI systems, which is all part of this. AI takes over control of who dies and who doesn't. And so what they've done is they've hidden the military reasons for 5G behind commercial networks giving people the chance to download movies in seconds. It all comes together when you realize the same force that controls the telecommunications companies who are doing this and control the governments that are subsidizing it, not least to have 5G in rural areas, and the Pentagon are all controlled by this same force. Once that penny drops, it all makes sense.